is Dates and Mates with your host, Damona Hoffman.
Hello, lovers. Welcome to Dates and Mates. This is the place where we are going to make modern love simple for you. And I'm your host, Damona Hoffman. I'm the leader on this journey to love. And we're broadcasting live from the Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood. We have an exciting show for you today, a thoughtful, exciting show. We will be talking with relationship coaches Antia and Brody Boyd, who will be discussing masculine and feminine dynamics and communication in relationships. This is a topic I know a lot of folks need. And I'm joined in studio by also a special guest on the ones and twos. Tony Sweet is sitting in for producer Thomas. Hi.
You're in trouble.
I'm not in trouble. You're in trouble.
Okay, fine.
We'll
Hi,
see who's in
Damona.
trouble by the end of this show.
I'll be crying, tail between my legs.
Don't worry, I'm not going to analyze you
Okay.
yet. But we are going to analyze the headlines today. We'll talk about the best opening lines to use on a dating app and how to tell if your relationship is going to stand the test of time at the beginning. This is like a magical thing that so many people want to know. Is my relationship going to work out or not? I'll tell you how to know. And we'll also discuss Meghan Markle's dating history. The royal wedding is coming, Tony.
Gossip.
Well, it's gossip, but there's a personal spin on it because I have a personal connection. So
Ooh.
I
Are
have
you
a-
invited?
I'm sitting here.
Oh,
What do
okay.
you think?
Just
I'm
checking.
like, Megan,
Maybe you turned it down.
something. I'm like the family
You're like,
members.
No, I don't want to go.
She has all these family members who showed up with their luggage, and they're just like standing
At the
outside
gates.
of like
Let me in.
Kensington Palace. Like, it got lost in the mail, but I swear I'm related to her. And she's just like,
You can watch it in the green room.
exactly. We also have your questions that you've posted on the Textbird app in Technically Dating today, including why it's so hard for some ladies to meet a good man. Not just any man, a good man. And how to get your man to pursue you again after you've broken up. But first, I'd like to continue a new segment, Tony, because I want to spread some joy in the world. It's a dark time out there, and I want to uplift everyone's spirits. So today's inspiring thought is looking at everything that's happening in the world today. It can really get you down, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed and to feel powerless. Just yesterday, no joke, I woke up in tears because of the situation in Gaza, and it was just like
Really?
a cloud. Yeah, it was a cloud hanging over me all day. And, there's a lot of tactical things that you could do to make a change, and we're not going to talk about that. You can talk about that on a different show. Today, I want to talk to you about sending light into the darkness. And whenever I hear of atrocities happening in the world, or whenever someone cuts me off on the freeway, or whenever...
I didn't mean to. Sorry. Is that you?
I'm trying to give an inspiring thought here, Tony.
Sorry.
Or whenever I hear of a new policy, that I disagree with, I picture sending light to that person or that situation. And if you could just step back for a moment and realize that most people are not acting out of a space of wanting to cause harm. Many are just stuck in their line of thinking or consumed with self-preservation or ego, or really truly doing what they think is best and for the greater good. So for those that frustrate you or sadden you or aggravate you, instead of giving into the darkness, send them light and wish that that light can illuminate the truth. And this is especially helpful in dating and relationships. So rather than placing blame, people place positivity instead. Tony, let's do the headlines.
Dee's dating dish.
Dating apps, it's my favorite topic. I could talk about dating apps all day, but not everybody wants to do that. But you want to know how to be more successful on dating apps, of course. And everybody says, what's the best opening line? I was actually at a conference, and I was saying that you want to be personal. Like, you want to pick out something in the profile that is unique to them and comment on that. So it's not like you're just sending out blanket messages. It's always funny to me. I kind of get schooled by the next generation, because I give dating advice for like my generation and older, and the next generation is like, nah. Like the people in their early 20s are like, no, that's boring. Like they want something more. And there was a study, I love a good study, that looked at the best opening lines, and Hinge. A lot of the dating apps have these these set opening lines. They're like conversation starters. Hinge looked at this, and they said that the best 2 opening lines were, you type, 2 truths and a lie, ready, set, go. And this actually improved the likelihood of getting a response by 31%. Or you could say Sunday priorities, exercise, sleep, or aggressive mimosas, which to me sounds like the worst opening line ever. But it's interesting. It flies in the face of what I think in terms of connecting online. You want to make a real human connection. This, to me, it sounds like it continues to gamify it, a trend that Tinder began, 5-6 years ago. But I'm still of the school that a true connection is best. And when you really feel like somebody has connected with you directly, and there's something about your profile that makes you different from all these other people, and that you got chose, then I think that makes for a more compelling interaction. I don't know. Do you have any pickup lines, Tony? What was how'd you snag your husband?
I just said, you wanna? No, I was kidding.
Your place, Emma.
Yeah, right. Actually, when I was on Tinder, which I was on there for a couple of years and never met anyone, nobody either ever talked, or the conversation fizzled out very quickly. But with my husband being from Brazil, I said, "Oh, I've been to Brazil. I loved going." And
specific.
I said, and I see that it. And I said, "You're beautiful like everybody else in Brazil." And then that pursued into a conversation.
And then he's like, "What do you mean, like everybody else?"
No, he goes, "I know."
Well, they also said compliments can get you. Flattery will get you everywhere on a dating app. But this is an interesting article, and you can find it on the Daily Mail. And that's not the only study that's fit to print. There was a study in Science Daily that came out of the UC Davis research that looked at 800 people who completed a relationship reconstruction survey, which is sort of the part of this study that I'm like, people are going back and looking at past relationships, trying to figure out what the patterns are and how you can tell if you're in a short-term relationship or if it's actually going to last long-term. And turns out, Tony, I kind of teased that I was going to give you the answer, but the answer is there is no answer. The answer is there's...
How rude.
I know. It's virtually indistinguishable. So people always say, well, how did you know that your husband was the one? Or what are the signs that this person is good? I always get asked, like Bustle is always having me comment on, like, what are the red flags? What are the red flags? And I'm like, well, now I can say there are really no red flags because it's just that process of getting to know someone. I'd really love for this study to take people that are actively dating on dating apps and follow them through and see which relationships last and what conversations are going on in their head. This is what I get to do as a dating coach as they're beginning this process, but like what criteria needs to be met, what decisions are made as you go along and you get more information about someone, and then you realize, oh, this isn't someone that I want to build a life with. You can't tell that from the first or second date. No. You have to go through the process. Slow love, as Dr. Helen Fisher calls it. Meghan Markle did a little slow love game on Prince Harry.
Good for her.
He put a ring on it, and they're tying the knot this weekend in the UK. I didn't get my invitation, but you know what's funny? They revealed who her exes were in the past. And I thought I knew one of Meghan Markle's exes. Turns out I actually know 2 of Meghan Markle's exes. Full disclosure, I did go to college with Meghan. And but one of them is a college...
Did you know her?
You know what's funny? I kind of didn't. One of the exes, Sean Zakin, who I think we have a photo of. We have the photo that's what he really looks like. But then we have the photo that they printed in the Daily Mail, which is, I'm sure he's like horrified. I haven't talked to him yet. But yeah, he was like,
one of them? Sean was?
Sean was.
Oh, wow.
And Sean is beautiful. Like, I used to say to him in college, I'm like, what is it like to wake up every day and just be like, I get to be beautiful all day again today? He's like, oh, stop. But I didn't really know her in college. But then after she dated Sean, and then because she's an actress and I worked in casting, but I know her mom pretty well because we take yoga together.
Oh, wow.
Crazy.
Look at you.
So crazy. But then she clearly has a type if you look through her exes. So she dated Sean Zakin, who was an actor for like 2 seconds, and he's a screenwriter. And then she dated Brett Ryland, who I know very well, and he's also an actor for 2 seconds and then a writer. And then Trevor Engelson, her ex-husband, was a writer. And then there was Simon Rex. That one was kind of the curveball.
Yeah. He's a rebel.
He's a rebel. You said you've had him on your show before.
I've interviewed him, before. So, yeah.
Did you know he was a former porn star?
Yeah.
It's like, I've seen a few.
Yeah.
Best Solo Performer Award in 1997.
I would have gave him the award, yeah.
Oh, hey. Okay, I've never seen him in that capacity, but I would say that she's doing okay for
You ever
herself.
seen that cartoon where the eyes go, wow, just bulge out? Yeah.
And the tongue rolls out on the table.
Yeah. That would be
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we wish her lots of luck. I'm sorry for all this drama that's happening with her dad. Honestly, what is the big deal? Stage photo. Why are we all so upset?
I don't know.
Just because he got a check? Because he staged it? Because he got a check? What is the big deal? Is it worth this man having a heart attack the week of his daughter's wedding?
No, not
What
at
are
all.
we really doing
Just
here?
leave him alone.
Okay, we'll leave them alone,
Yeah.
but we're not going to leave you alone. We're going to take a little break, but when we come back, we'll be talking about male and female dynamics and communication in relationships, so stick around. Whether you're single or in a relationship, one thing that you need to feel is sexy. And I know just as well as anyone that when you're carrying around a few extra pounds, sexy is the last thing that you feel, right? When you feel good about your body, others will feel good about being with you. So let me guess a couple of your excuses for working out and getting in shape. Let's see. Number 1, you hate sweaty, stinky gyms. Number 2, you don't have any cute workout clothes to wear. Number 3, you don't have time to work out. Now, I'm going to blow all of those excuses out of the water when I tell you that you can get fit on your schedule, wearing whatever the heck you want in the privacy of your own home. You, my friend, need to try Beachbody On Demand. And now fans of Dates and Mates can get all the Beachbody programs for $99 a year, 30 days risk-free. You can stream all of Beachbody's fitness programs and get the nutritional guides on 21 Day Fix, PiYo, Insanity, T25, P90X, P90X3, and more. I've been actually doing P90X3 myself, and I love the 30-minute format. It's so quick, and I know you've got 30 minutes. So you owe it to yourself to try the entire Beachbody On Demand system completely risk-free. Just click the link in the show notes or go to datesandmates.com and click the Beachbody banner to get started. Welcome back to Dates and Mates. I am so excited to be here in studio, live and in person with my guests. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Antia and Brody Boyd have been helping thousands of successful single men and women all over the world for over 2 decades combined, people. They add that together because not only are they dating and relationship coaches, but they're also a couple themselves. Antia studied personality psychology at UC Berkeley. Berkeley, no slouch over here. Brody also has a degree in communications and interpersonal relationships, and they've been international keynote speakers on hundreds of stages and radio shows all over the world. They've been to Google, they've been to Harvard University, they've been on Good Morning San Diego, and now they are joining us for their first appearance on Dates and Mates. Hopefully not their last. Please give big smooches to Antia and Brody Boyd.
Woohoo!
Thank you. Receive the love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love
love,
as
love,
well.
love.
I know. Love coaches, love spreading love.
Oh,
So
yes.
that's what we got to do today because there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion that goes on with gender dynamics, with communication. So let's just break it down a little bit. You're all about helping people create passion and chemistry and attraction in their dating and romantic life. So I know you can't give me all the juice, but maybe you could give me like one secret that you could share on how you've been able to do that for yourselves and for so many other clients.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, so it's really about we have developed the Magnetize the Man method, which consists of mapping, magnifying, and then manifesting. And so one secret is the mapping stage, understanding what is your attachment style. Oftentimes, like when women don't understand what their attachment style is, they try to be someone that they're not, and because of that, send mixed signals. And then they're surprised that they attract emotionally unavailable men.
Yeah, that's what happens. Like you get back what you put out there. So, Brody, as a guy, since
we checked.
Yes.
since Antia went in on the ladies first, what are some of the big mistakes that you see men making when they're trying to attract a partner? Do they do the same thing, trying to be something that they're not, or is there a different issue that guys have?
Yeah, so with guys, I find some of the biggest challenges men are coming to me with are they're struggling with their confidence, they're struggling with their social skills, the ability to approach a woman confidently in their masculine. One thing we talk a lot about is we were discussing earlier is masculine feminine dynamics, really the only thing that causes attraction and polarity. And what we're finding is that the men who come to me, they've lost touch with their masculine. They've become neutralized. They're not in touch with their purpose, their king, their inner wild man. And so when they approach a woman, if they get to that point, which takes that courage, they're usually not as confident as they could be, and they end up saying things that they regret, or they end up being really nervous, or they end up just pushing the woman away. So it's not working out for them in those ways.
So what are the factors that have led to the demasculinization of men?
Yeah, so I think one of the big factors we've seen is just the changing gender roles in our society in a lot of ways. I mean, in the last 20 years or so especially, there's been this shift of women stepping more in their masculine, wanting to become more like men, you might say, which is great in their career lives. It's fine, and that's totally beautiful thing to have women be empowered in their careers. But the challenge is then bringing that into the bedroom, you might say, or into the romantic world. And so men, they're also losing that touch. They're getting more trained to be more like girls from an early age. They're taught to, they're being put on Ritalin, and they're taught to behave, and they're losing touch with that masculine essence, and so they're not being trained to be in their masculinity. Just, I'd say, on a cultural-wide basis, this is a phenomenon that's happening. One of our friends calls it the romantic apocalypse. All these factors, and not to mention the chemical factors that are reducing testosterone in men as well, and well, with women too. But that's one of the big factors I'm seeing. Cultural shifts.
I'm going to throw my theory into the mix, and then you can tell me how I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I kind of believe let me make a more definitive statement. I believe I am very much in touch with my masculine, and my husband is a little bit in touch with his feminine. He'll tell you that. I'm not like throwing him under the bus or anything. But I feel like our relationship works because it's balanced. Is it possible for, like, do you have to go all aggro and testosterone to be a man who can attract a woman in today's world? Or is it more about creating a balance or certain situations where you need to step into your more masculine or more feminine self?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely believe in that. That's what I always tell my women. What's your balance when they don't know where to go next to? Because we all have, of course, the masculine and feminine inside of us. And we're talking about when it's out of balance, when there's constant emasculation, or when there's constant where a man really feels like they come to us and say, I have no space next to her. I have nothing to give. I have nothing to contribute, right? So that's what we're talking about if it's being taken to the extreme, because of course we're dynamic human beings. We're not just in one particular energy all the time.
Yeah, that's true. Were you going to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to add on to that what I said earlier about shifting from career. One thing I see that's a great tool for that is shifting between career mode and work mode into romance mode. And being able to make that transition is a big key to it. Because, yeah, a man doesn't have to be super macho to be in his masculine. He just has to have a strong purpose, a direction. And there can also be the shift where it's the energies that attract. You know, that old saying, opposites attract. The energies is what causes that juice, that causes passion and chemistry. And the woman can be more masculine. The man can be more feminine. That can create that same juice. But generally, you have to be connected with your essence. And so men can shift into that when they come home. Even if they're a stay-at-home dad, you know, maybe taking a traditional feminine role, that when the woman comes home, maybe he's planning out a dinner, maybe he's taking her on an adventure, he's taking the lead, you know, he's guiding her, he's holding space, he's being that strong sense of like, tell me about your day, here, I'm here for you, I got you. He's being strong for her in that moment. So
I love that.
That can create that chemistry too.
I love coming home to a hot meal on the table. Like, I could totally understand why, like, 50s husbands They had it so good. I hope they realize how good they had it, because that is something really special. To come home every night, like I don't come home every night and have dinner on the table. Like last night, I was like, I'll take care of dinner tonight, and then I realized I had 15 minutes and just no energy before my kids got home, and I was like, or I'll just make a pizza.
It's like my mom used to do. She'd even have the kids just make it. Like tonight, she'd call it snack-arounds. We're gonna.
Oh, I want to hear this. Snack arounds.
Snack arounds. This is a classic thing in my household growing up. Yeah, we're gonna snack tonight. It's basically everyone for themselves.
Snack around. Can I borrow that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. But I know a lot of people are snacking around in dating.
Yes, exactly.
Because there's a phenomenon that I see with people that they're like, I want a relationship, but they kind of get into these little trysts, these rendezvous that take them. I feel like it takes their energy out of the pursuit of a relationship. Yes. Do you see this as happening as well?
Oh, absolutely. I see so many women who come to me, they're very successful, but then I also get this feeling they like to be single. And I always tell them that. I said, there's a part inside of you. And what we're looking at is that they like to be free and independent. So the next step is really integrating that part. So when Brody and I, for example, got married, I said, with this ring, I said, you're free. So we knew right away within the marriage.
Hold on. You said you're free. Mm-hmm. Okay, you explain what that means, and then we're gonna talk about it.
Oh, you will love it. Okay. So what it means is that we have 6 different archetypes inside of us. There's 6 different archetypes for women and for men. And so what it means for me is that I'm taking a stand for those independent archetypes inside of Brody. So for example, the wild man that needs to go into the woods for 2 days or just be by himself, and I'm actually saying, hey babe, it feels like you're depleted, how about I drop you off somewhere, right?
I just drop you off in the woods.
Versus
that could be the beginning of a Lifetime movie.
Go survive.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll
But
survive.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right? So I'm not waiting until he comes, because that will never happen, because he's, of course, an autopilot. But we get to really observe each other, and we get to see, okay, it's time for you to be in your inner girl. It's time for you to be in your...
Spend some time with your girlfriends, or
Right.
go out, and for me as well. So we're being a stand for each other's independent parts.
Yes.
That we're
Yes.
taking care to make sure that we're keeping an interdependent relationship, and that we're getting our alone time as well. And that's
Yes.
the freedom
Right.
part, so that our parts that want to be free are still being fulfilled. And they're not just
Yeah.
being set aside or repressed, pushed under the rug.
See, this is the problem that I see a lot of times. People now want their relationship to be their everything. They're like, oh, well, I want him to be my best friend and my boyfriend and the father of my children. And also, I want to play the same sports that he does, and I want to listen to the same music. And oh my God, I saw on his Spotify that he likes Nickelback, and it's just never going to work out, because of that. And it's so much pressure to put on a relationship when you're looking for someone to fill all of those needs within you, right?
Oh, absolutely. So there's the
not healthy.
couple identity, and then there's the individual identity. Absolutely. I mean, Brody has music I would never listen to. Sometimes I say in the car, just listen to it on your headphones. I literally, it
want no part of
scratches
this
my
music.
system.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish she liked this. I want to go to a concert with her. I want to but I'm like, all right, it's all right.
See,
The individual self.
early in the relationship, you probably like listen to those things, and like you kind of drag them into it, and then the person realizes like, no, that's your thing. I independently, like, I used to try and bring my husband to concerts. I was really into live music, and he's not interested in that. And he would go with me, but then he would sit and look sad, and I'm like, I would rather not sit here with you being sad. I'd rather sit here with someone else and then do something that you like with you.
Oh, absolutely. And Damona, what I think is, if you make it a priority to be filled up, no matter if it's like in the relationship or if your partner's doing something outside of the relationship, not like, romantic wise. I mean,
When you said free earlier, I was like, oh, but that's right.
I know there was that whole thing with Will Smith when his wife said we have an open relationship, but that's what she was talking about as well. Is that just
Freedom.
we're open to let each other be free?
Yes.
I don't know. I heard
it's
things.
Well, I don't know.
Okay,
I don't
well,
know too
maybe
much about their
that's not the best
situation. I know there was
example.
conflict around that, but the idea is it's freedom within your interests, your hobbies. Not necessarily like having an open relationship. That's too far. That's on the extreme. So you have to balance it too. There's codependence, like what you were talking about, where all your needs are being met to each other, and then independence, where you guys are totally separate, living basically maybe seeing each other once a month, long distance are often like that, but interdependence is like a balance between those two,
Yeah.
where you're standing next to each other. The metaphor I like to use is you're standing next to each other holding hands. You're not leaning against each other, codependence, and you're not setting apart from each other.
I like that visual.
Next, holding hands.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to talk about the F word. Not the one that you're thinking, Tony. Fear. We talked about this, I think, last week or the week before. But you have strategies that help your clients overcome loneliness, frustration, sadness, and magnetize the right partner for you quickly, but without fear. What do you mean by that, Brody?
Well, I like to start with a quote. It's one of my favorite quotes, which is, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek."
Oh, that's so deep.
Yes, write that
Okay.
down.
Everybody
Write that
take a
down.
deep breath.
Quotable.
That's from Joseph Campbell. It was one of the inspirations behind the Star Wars films. But basically, that is a guiding light for me in how to deal with fear, which is basically just because you feel fear in dating, in your relationships, doesn't mean you have to pull back. Oftentimes, the reason you're feeling fear is because that means there's treasure on the other side. There's something that you can break through. There's something waiting for you on the other end of the rainbow. That if you can just push through that fear, if you can just face it head on, face your fears head on, then there's some gold there. There's usually in the form of confidence, gaining confidence, in the form of getting a lesson that you need, or in the form of actually making that connection and finally having the ability to have a long-term lasting relationship.
I agree with you, but it's so hard to get people to that point because the F word is so big and people are afraid of those outcomes because you want that connection so badly. Like a lot of times women will come to me and they're like, I've been single this long, I want a relationship. And they'll get into these situationships that they know are not right, but they're afraid to ask the question because the answer might be no.
Absolutely. It reminds me of how Sarah Blakely, the youngest female billionaire, got raised by her dad, and he high-fived her every single time when she got rejected, when she didn't make the team, right? So, and of course, no coincidence that she actually got a lot of rejections in the beginning, but it was about what was her internal representation of that rejection. It was just, okay, I'll just keep going. High five for me because I play outside of my comfort zone. So it's really about building a new relationship. So I celebrate my clients. We're doing rejection challenges and who gets the most rejections and just really like leaning in. I'm a fan of leaning all in and doing it together and rewriting it, really celebrating. I jump up and down with them. I ring the bell, and they're like, really, wait, did I just get rejected, or are we just celebrating a success?
Is it rejection in the space of talking to men, or is it just rejection exercises elsewhere in life that then you apply to dating?
So whatever it is, I mean, mostly, of course, it's like really focused on men, right? But occasionally it's, they ask for the raise at work or whatever, start their own journey. So because, of course, it's all interrelated.
It is. So many times the issues that are coming up elsewhere in your life, in your professional life, in your family structure, I'm like, so let me just see, is this thing that you're complaining about in dating also a factor somewhere else? And then there's always this like aha moment of like, oh yeah, those patterns are really hard to move away from. And I know you really help people to break those negative patterns and rewrite new patterns. And you have actually a free gift that tell the listeners what they win.
The grand prize.
Yeah, so it's Magnetize the Man Clarity Call, where we get crystal clear on what are your vulnerability thresholds. That's what I call them, because there are so many blind spots inside of your system where you might know something mentally. We work with lots of women who have taken lots of programs and workshops, but it's all in their head. And nothing is embodied. And how do they know that? Because they're not attracting what they want to attract, right? So we're really looking at where's the holdback, where you're not expressing a certain emotion. That's the magnification stage. So we're looking at that. And then, of course, at the end, we look at what is the bridge to also looking how emotionally connected are you to what you desire to have. Because that also gives me an indication of how high is your believability factor that this is possible. Because you can do your affirmations all day long. But if you don't really believe that, if you can sell anyone on that, how are you going to sell yourself on that?
Right. And also, I like to kind of stretch that the goal has to just be 50% believable, like 51%, really.
51, yes. Uh-huh.
So
Just
if
the tipping
you
point.
just have the tipping point, if there's enough there, and you can do all that in a discovery call.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so people can sign up for that at findtheoneelite.com. That's find the one elite, and one is spelled out ONE, right?
Yes.
Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I offer the same call for men. One thing I'll add on too is that since we're talking about fear and facing that, you have to be in action, because the beauty is when you take action, you win every time. You win because you get the result that you wanted, or you win because you get the learning. And one thing we love to say is love happens outside of your comfort zone. And if you're not outside of your comfort zone, you're stuck. You're struggling. So that's what I offer for men as well. I help them with breaking through their fears, their blind spots, and the same thing with the call that Antia is offering, our discovery sessions.
Great.
So-
And that's also at findtheoneelite.com.
Findtheoneelite.com. Yes, you can sign up for Antia or with me.
Just say I'm a man or I'm a woman. That way.
Or
Once you go
or
there, it'll direct
what if
you.
you're like non-binary gender? not
Well,
to
it's not our
not to
specialty,
complicate
but,
things.
you know, we help
Then
with that
this
too.
whole conversation is you already turned it off. But don't go away, because we have more questions that
Great.
have come in from our listeners in our segment called Technically Dating. This segment is brought to you in partnership with the Techspert app, where you can get crowdsourced advice for your drama. You can download it for free in the App Store. So our first question, Antia and Brody, comes to us from a young female. She's 22, y'all. She says, "Why can't I find a good man? They never want to listen to me when I try to open up about my life. I tell them how I want to be a mother and get married, and that pushes them away for some reason. I can't find a man who actually cares about me and who has feelings for me. What am I doing wrong?"
Well, I would start off with asking a different question. How about a question, how can I attract even more amazing, available men who want to have commitment in the romantic relationship? Okay?
Some more positive spin on it.
Yeah, so start your day off with that, because then your unconscious actually starts looking to resonate with different men that you would normally attract into your life.
I like that. And then what about this idea, Brody, where if you tell a man that you want to be a mother and you want to be married, that he runs away? Because I do hear this a lot from my clients too, that it's that balance of how do I say what I want without being too much too soon.
Yeah, so what I would say is for women, know what you want, and it's great because this woman sounds like she's very clear on what she wants. She wants to be a mother, and then own it and be clear on the ownership, because what happens is I feel a lot of women, because I coach a lot of women in our programs as well, is that a lot of women they're holding shame around it. They're holding shame. They're holding these stories that they think it's a burden that they want to be a mother, or they think that there are no men that want to do that as well. So when they tell the man, a lot of dating and communication comes down to energy. As you're aware, we're all talking about a lot on this interview here, but so when they're sharing that they want a man to have a child with, they're saying it with an energy of shame, or they're sharing it with an energy of like, I want to have a baby, are you okay with that? And it's like this shame around it. But if they said, yeah, I want to have kids, or they just own it, like, yeah, I want to have kids, I want to be married. And there was no shame around it. They're just confident. They're owning their desire. For one, they're going to stop attracting men that are also feeling like, oh, that's weird. Because one thing we like to say is how you treat yourself is how other people will treat you as well. So if you're treating yourself like you don't deserve that, or that there's no men that's going to want that with you, that's how men will treat you as well.
Ain't that the truth? I noticed she is 22. So while just to answer her question, I think you guys nail on the head. That's exactly right. And I think you should be able to express what you want early on in the relationship, because then you know if that person is not on board with it. So many times we don't ask those tough questions. We don't express what we want, and then we're like, how am I in this relationship 6 months later and this is not at all what I want? But girl, you 22. You have your whole life ahead of you to be a mother, to find your man. I don't know that it's as much of a rush as she feels. I mean, I just as a mom, it's not for the faint of heart, right? It's not for the faint of heart. I just had to repeat that. And I wouldn't have been ready to be a mom at 22. I mean, yeah, I could have done it. You deal with the situation, but I think there's this feeling of like the whole world is happening without me, and this is something I got to get on with my life for a lot of people in their early 20s. And when you step back, it's like that you're just at the beginning. It just maybe take some time to sort of explore and make sure that you're with the right partner. There's no rush when you decide to partner with someone and have a child. That you better be making the right decision. You don't want just anybody. You want the right one.
I love the Greek method too. Is like ask the 5 whys. Why do you want to have kids? Why do you want that? Why do you want that?
What's so great
I love
about
the 5
that?
whys.
Yeah, because if she gets clear on the roots of why she's wanting that, she'll probably find that she's actually just wanting to have more meaning or purpose in her life.
Yes.
Or
That's
just
why I
wants
see-
a puppy or something.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Right?
Oh, I didn't want a child. I want a dog.
Oh.
She wants
Well-
to feel significant or have that connection. Yeah.
Great insight. We have a question from another female. She's 21. She says, me and my boyfriend broke up 2 months ago, but we're working on a new relationship together. How do I get him to chase me again, like he used to when we first met?
Oh, okay. Well, first off, you want to really look into, well, how was your relationship in the beginning? Because oftentimes what we see is that you start to neglect yourself. You start to leave yourself. You start to say, well, I'm exchanging my yoga class for the movie night with you, right? So I would really go back to what were you doing when you guys were in love, when you had that polarity, when you had that passion, and go back to that structure. As you noticed what Brody and I talked before was really the interdependence. So I'm getting a sense that there might be the interdependence piece might be missing. Also, you want to check on what attachment style are you, right? You could be an anxious attachment style where in the beginning it's all exciting because the anxious and the avoidant, if he's an avoidant, have actually polarity together. However, it becomes really like a nightmare on earth. So you really want to also learn, where can I source myself? Where do I expect him to do things that maybe I can call a girlfriend or call my mom or do something by yourself?
Great advice.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite subjects actually, but one thing I love to teach our women is reward the behavior you want to see more of as well. So I see a lot of women in relationship, they aren't rewarding the man when he is doing those things that she wants, when he is initiating, when he is taking charge, when he is chasing her, because there's this resentment built up like, well, you should have been doing that months ago, or you should have been doing that the whole time. Why are you just doing that now? Instead of like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know anything about that. That's really weird. Yeah, that's very weird.
and men do this too, but it's so instead of like, thank you, I appreciate that. I love when you plan out the dinners, or I love when you're doing this. It makes it so sexy when you're stepping into your masculine. I love that. And so just the basic idea of rewarding that can go a long way to getting him to now start being trained, because men are pretty simple at the end of the day. As are humans, we're rewarded by what feels good and we're not rewarded by what doesn't feel good, pleasure and pain. So reward him, and don't reward him when he's not doing things that you like.
Just thinking, man training.
Man training.
It is. It
101.
sort of is. It sort of is. But I mean, you do teach people how to treat you, and there's some man training and some woman training that goes on at the beginning of a relationship, and so they're basically starting over again. But can we just stop with this idea of like chasing? Like, oh, the man has to chase me. I feel like there's this attachment from so many women that they want it to. It's like a game. They want to be pursued like they're a beast in the wild or something. And it's just so old fashioned to me. Like, can you just show up for the relationship and encourage him to show up? Like, it doesn't have to be you're being chased down. I'm just really over this chase idea. I get very strong ideas about things, but I'm a modern dating coach. Here we go. Okay. This comes to us from a young lady. She says, when is it okay to have sex in a normal relationship? For how long should you have dated him or her? Sounds like she could go either way.
So, okay, great. So, it's like I just had to solve that for a minute. It really depends on. So, if you're more a secure attachment style, you don't feel you give all your power away after you're sexually intimate, right? Like, do it when it feels right. However, if you're more on the spectrum, like when you're intimate with a man, you get easily attached, and all the stories are starting. You see your last name behind his first name, or vice versa.
Getting anxious.
Then I do recommend to wait at least until you are exclusive with each other. So it really depends on where you are energetically, right? Because there's women who are really confidently relating to themselves, and they really listen to their intuition. But I wouldn't recommend that if you get easily attached.
Steve Harvey says 90 days. Yay or nay, Brody?
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't agree with any time limit on it, time frame. It's more about the stage, and like what Antia was saying, where are you at in your attachment style? Most women who come to us are more anxious. So I generally recommend the rule that we call it the sexclusivity rule, no sex until exclusivity, for women who are anxious. For women who are secure and they're detached from the outcome, yes, then trust when it feels right.
Yeah.
But most women who come to us, at least in the anxious attachment style, best to wait, because you're going to go crazy if he starts pulling away after you've had sex with him, and it's not going to be pretty.
I feel like there are probably not that many women that come to you in a secure attachment style.
Otherwise, they are probably in a relationship
They're probably
already.
in a relationship.
Yes.
Okay, we have one last question from a woman who is in a relationship, but this one's a little bit of a doozy. Okay, I gave you guys the softballs, but now I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Sure.
All right.
Let's have
Sports references.
Bring it.
It's funny.
We're ready.
I know
Get the
nothing about
glove out.
sports. Okay, this lady says, my boyfriend is in jail right now, and he knows I hang out with my homeboy, I will not say his name, like all the time. And the other night, I messed up. I made out with him, and I don't know if I should tell my boyfriend when he gets out or don't tell him. I told you the curveball was coming.
Okay.
I'll just say the first thing I'll say: if your boyfriend's in jail, raise your standards, girlfriend. Raise your freaking standards. I mean, that shows me. There's also three archetypes we work with: the doormat, the queen, and the bitch. The queen is really a balance between the doormat and the bitch. But when you're dating guys who are abusing you, or they're in trouble with the law or stuff like that,
Unless something, we
Well,
don't
unless
know
something- yeah,
why
we don't
he's
know what the
Maybe
crime
he's
is.
wrongfully accused.
Exactly.
maybe it's wrongfully
Exactly.
accused.
Yeah.
In general, that's what my intuition is telling
But
me.
she will know which one it is.
She
when
will
she
know.
listens
She
to
will
the
know.
Right.
She will
Yes.
know. So that's just one thing I'll add right off the bat. Raise the standards.
The other rule that I always have is, how would you like to be treated? So I would like her to put herself in his shoes and really think about, like, what would she like him to do in the same situation.
Yeah. Okay, so she probably would want to be told. That people always say this too around when you're ending a relationship. Like, is it okay to send a text? Is it okay to ghost? And it's like, well, what would you like to have done to you? And people are like, well, I would want
to others.
Yeah, I'd want to be told, but at the same time, I don't really want to tell somebody. So it's like it's
Yeah,
kind of
and I think-
awkward. But I feel like telling him while he's in jail, I'm not sure how much that's just going to piss him off, and you guys can't really talk about it. Like, maybe it's when you are together. Maybe that's the setting.
Definitely. For deeper conversations, always avoid text and email. Have deeper conversations in person, ideally, or on the phone at the very least, because there's going to be
But he's
stuff
only
that's gonna
got
come
like
up.
5 minutes, you know.
If he only has 5 minutes.
Right.
Well, the other thing is, I
First
think of
phone
it as
call.
a practice too. You're practicing being in integrity. You're practicing sticking with your agreements. If you agree to being exclusive with him and you're kissing other men, if that's against your agreement, you have to stand. You have to be in integrity with that. You have to, own your decisions, and you own that with him. And you're either going to be putting dirt under the rug in your relationship, or you're going to clean it out. And maybe the relationship will end. Maybe he's not going to want to be with you anymore. But that's going to be a better long-term situation than having a relationship where you're constantly having this stuff under the rug building up. And he's going to sense it at some point. He's going to sense something's off. So you might as well clean it up now. And it's just it's approach to life. Integrity is a way of life that it's going to open up doors rather than cause suffering later on.
Or just like I tell my kids, secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt someone. Sometimes the old advice is the best way.
Exactly.
Well, I know you have a lot more advice that you can share with folks, and that discovery call sounds pretty hot. I think people should do
it's
that
juicy.
and get their life right at find the
findoneelite.com.
Findtheoneelite.com. And if you have a question for the show, you can DM me at Damona Hoffman on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You could give us a call. Leave us a voicemail at 424-246-6255. Again, it's 424-246-6255. Or, hey, why not just post it on the TextBird app? You can download it for free in the App Store. And before you go, I wanted to, because we talked a lot about modern versus antiquated dating. So I wanted to go back in the time machine. We do this from time to time. We go into the romance rollback and we look at where dating and relationship traditions began. There was an article I found that took us through the courtship of time, and I found it really fascinating because even as a dating expert, I didn't know, like, where did the term dating come from? It turns out it was allegedly coined in 1896 by a heartbroken clerk whose love interest told him that all the dates on her calendar were filled. And I would have thought that dating went back before then, the term, you know, all these new terms we're always talking about, the new terms that are coming up, but makes sense. Dating had to do with dates on the calendar that were filled up. But courtship has not always been the same, because in the early 1900s, courtship was public. I think this is a big thing that has shifted. Courtship was public, then it was private. And I feel like courtship is kind of public again. It's just happening in the social media space. So back in the 1900s, a man would meet the woman in her home and get to know her while her family was around. And then things changed. We had prohibition. Things went kind of underground. There were speakeasies. And it's funny because before then, women couldn't go to a bar. But after in speakeasies, anybody can go anywhere. So it actually kind of created that like dating in a bar culture. And then we had drive-in movie theaters, which opened in the 1930s. And then we had World War II. And that changed, certainly, because as men were going away to war, you had that pressure of like, I got to snag my man right now because we just don't know how it's gonna end up. So in those times, women were expected to let the man initiate the relationship because they didn't want to seem easy. But then we hit the 60s and 70s, and what happened there? Premarital sex, the pill. And that sort of changed everything. And, of course, also the LGBTQ movement. So then we get online dating. Do you guys know the year that online dating, the first computer match dating service appeared? I was shocked.
I'll guess 1996.
I would say
Way back.
Oh, wow.
What were you going to say? This is like the price is
1990.
1965,
Wow.
people would fill out detailed questionnaires. They would mail them to Operation Match, and they would receive notice of who an IBM computer matched them with in a few weeks. It was very underground then. But then, of course, in later years, online dating came back again. And as I said now, I think we're in the time of public courtship. There's the group dating. There's like, hey, will you look at my profile? Will you look at this guy that I'm going out with? And I think now people are
Reality
wanting
dating shows.
or reality dating
Right?
shows.
I mean, that's
which
totally
I
Can't get much
open
more public
public.
than that.
So what do you think? Old-fashioned courtship or new-fashioned courtship? What do you think is the best time to date?
Oh, I think there's both. Both have their perks, I would say, right? Because I liked, back then it was like really defined, so everybody had their role. Now it's like much more really thinking it's coming from a place of choice. It's not so much like I have to do this or the parents have to be around. So it's really hard to say. I really like both. We take like the mix of both.
What do you say, Brody?
Yeah, so I would say
Cocktail.
what I would take from the old ways of doing things is definitely there's a lot of truth in the saying people don't tend to value what they don't have to work for or what comes too easily. Or that old saying, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Is kind of what they say. I think there's a lot of truth to that. It's basic human psychology. We tend to value things that are more rare or hard to come across. So there's a lot of truth in that courtship model. And in modern times, there's a lot of benefits to having more choices, being able to use online for that. But then there's also the paradox of choice. People tend to have more buyer's remorse because of online dating as well. When they go on all these Tinder dates, they have so many options, and then they end up choosing someone to be like, wait, but that other person, what if he was the one? He had this really great sense of humor.
See, I would say it's not the Tinder that's the problem. It's the people not making the choices, because if you are filtering your dates before you get to that point, you don't have the paradox of choice happening. You're making decisions as you go along. And then, if you're really doing it right, you're not going, I mean, that's how Tony did it, right? You weren't going on dozens and dozens of dates. And it was the same thing with me. Like, of course, I was online dating in the Middle Ages. You're right. So we're talking about old-fashioned dating, but not in 1965. I was not born yet, but a little bit after that. And there weren't as many options. There wasn't the swipe feature where you are having that decision fatigue, but you made clearer decisions about who you wanted to invest in. And I think it's the decision fatigue that then makes them have that FOMO, talking about new dating terms. You have that FOMO of like, well, what if it was the one that I swiped left on and then maybe I made a mistake, and then you're replaying that and you're stuck in this paradox of choice. But I think if we're still making decisions and we're clear on what we need in a relationship and we're unafraid to say it, I think I vote for now. I think this is the best time because of choice. I think choice is a good thing when used wisely.
Yeah, I think it always goes back to what do you really want, and being super clear on that, why you want it, because then you can use the technology to your advantage, like you said, and just be very clear on what your deal breakers are, what are your must-haves, so you're not wasting your time with people that aren't even a possibility. That's just going to aggravate that, like you said, more, the paradox of choice.
Right.
So you have to have more knowledge. I think it goes back to strategy and knowledge is going to help to use the tools the best as possible.
Well, thank you for being here, sharing your strategies with us, and the people at home can get some time with one of you at findtheoneelite.com. And again, that's findthe1, O-N-E, elite.com. Thank you so much for joining us, Antia and Brody. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Great.
And thank you for being here and for listening to Dates and Mates. If you love the show, why not share it? Tell somebody. You can just click the share button, give it to a friend, or leave us a review on iTunes. It really does help us reach more people and spread more of this light that I'm trying to spread in the world. I'm your host, Damona Hoffman. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Damona Hoffman. We will be back again next week where we are going to talk about sexual health, people. So wrap it up until then, and happy dating.